listeners. Interact with us on our show chat room, via our Facebook page, and on Twitter. We would like to thank those who make this show possible and allow us to bring it to you. Our show sponsors are Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and BooHammer.com. All right, welcome everyone to another episode. Let me check my phones here. Make sure I'm getting enough throughput here on them. Maybe so. There we go. Let me turn up my mic. That would help, actually. Everyone, hello and welcome to another episode of Stu and the Nunn. Hey there, Al from Colorado. My favorite ISI. What's up, David? How you doing, buddy? Good to see people coming into the chat. Waiting on my brother from another motherland, Toby. We were chatting earlier today. Not sure if he's going to make it. I thought he would. So we may have a little technical mumbo jumbo happening here a little bit if he can join so I can get him on air and get him online here. But until then, you're stuck with me. And let me take a quick little sip right here. Can't do a show without having a drink. Oh, by the way, hi, Mom. How you doing? Others joining in. I see folks coming in. So, welcome to, where are we at? I think we're episode 275 tonight. We were working on some guests. We got some. I know we have someone lined up next week. Rob, the unpaid producer, has someone lined up for next week, and we have that line going on. So, but tonight we're talking about a couple of things. Want to hit on a few topics that are kind of hot in the news, and like every other show. We only have to wait to the day of the show to come up with content and come up with topics because, man, this country, politics and everything else never ceases to give us material to talk about. Hopefully my sound is coming through okay. I'm trying to check some of my audio settings as I'm running solo here tonight, and hopefully it's a little bit better. So I'm sure someone will tell me in the chat. Mr. Lukeman, dude, awesome that you still have the ID card. Dude, I'd love to have you on here. I see you in the chat. I could bring you on in a second if you'd like to come on chat. You're always welcome. For those in the chat, David is a old friend of mine, an old combat veteran buddy from the state of Oregon. Probably not there anymore, but was. We were in Afghanistan together and met him over there and have stayed friends all this time, no matter where he found himself. I think we've had you on before. Remind me. For some reason, I'm thinking we have, but it could just be we talk all the time. Anyways, a number of topics to talk about tonight, David. If you want to come in, you let me know, and I will pipe you in, buddy. Want to talk about a couple of things tonight. We'll start off with, and we'll see where the show goes. Not sure if we'll go a whole hour, not go an hour. It depends. I'm not a big fan of talking by myself without any feedback, so I'll definitely be looking for people in the chat to ask questions or want to know anything. I'll talk to that. I sit on, like my work, I sit on the phone all day. I talk on Zooms all day. That's all I do is talk. So, which is, this mic gets a lot of work just from those. So you can see I did a different angle tonight from my camera. You can see a couple things behind me, including my very right there. Let's see. I think I got it right there. My very favorite helmet, my AH-64 Apache helmet. So, there we go. Yeah. Anyways, got that going. Um, so a couple things today. First thing is the SCOTUS ruling, the Supreme Court of the U.S. ruling on the vax mandate. That was big news last week when they heard the arguments. Anyone that has tracked or knows anything about the Supreme Court, they typically do not. Hey, what's up, Doug? They typically do not, give the rulings on most normal cases. Um, right away, right? They hear cases and it's like 8 to 9 months later and you get the rulings. But this vax mandate, this using of OSHA as the enforcement arm for the federal government to get what they want out of people, to get symptom shots in their arm. Anyone that's been watching or listening to me for a while know I tried my best not to use the term vaccine. I've been calling it a symptom shot from the get-go, and I think now everyone realizes that's what it is. Especially since they have changed the definition of what a vaccine is. So they used, President right around mid-November, actually. Actually, it was the night. Here's how I know what it was. He announced it the night before opening day of hunting season in New York. So he announced it on November 19th. I only know that because I was driving up to go hunting and get settled in as it was happening. So he announced that it went up to the Supreme Court. They all argued it, and they ruled today on a vote of 6-3 that the federal government, trying to make OSHA, who has always been in existence for the protection of workers, Toby's telling me about 5 minutes, so I'll be bringing him here in a little bit. But try to make OSHA come in and do and be an enforcement arm, not for the protection of workers, but for the enforcement of government mandates, was an overreach, and OSHA was never given that rights or that enforcement ability. Right? They're there to make sure you have a safe work environment, that your employer doesn't put you, in a place that doesn't give you the proper safety equipment and iPro and maybe harnesses or whatever's needed, right? And that you're afforded the opportunity to work in a safe environment and not go there and be at risk. So the Supreme Court today ruled that cannot happen, right? You cannot force the employers of 100 employees or more to give all their people shots or fine them. Which, by the way, if you didn't know, the official enforcement of that started 2 days ago on the 11th of January. So today on the 13th, they ruled, nope, you overstepped your bounds. It is not legal. And you cannot make companies do that, which is absolutely, whether you're a libertarian or not, is absolutely the right thing to do, right? Because free enterprise, capitalism, and everything goes along with that. The federal government already has enough overreach with how they twist and bastardize things that the Constitution says they can do or should not do. But to make them make employers, because if you're an employer and you got 101 people, you just fire the last 2, and now you're good to go, right? So just the concept of that is not legal. Hey, my buddy Toby is joining me. Well, okay, I'm gonna let me bring Toby in here. Can you hear me, Toby?
I can.
All right, so I'm gonna work on getting your video on. You got a cool new backdrop tonight, so I'm gonna work on getting that set up. But I was just starting to get into the Supreme Court ruling today, and talk about what they ruled on OSHA not being able to enforce the 100+ per employee mandate and all that stuff. I don't know if you have any thoughts or opinions on that while I work on getting your video set up.
Yeah, no, so again, I'm down here with a little bit of isolation, but that information, that news is big enough to make it all the way here, which is impressive because not much actually makes it down here, because what people find important here versus what people find important there tends to be different sometimes. I am not surprised in any way about that ruling, and the only thing that surprises me is it took the Supreme Court getting involved to have that ruling done. I mean, what an overreach! What I don't know how else to say it. Like, you are trying to force something on a private entity that you have no right to do. Like, I know that's a very American thing to say, so I guess I'm American today. But you 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 don't you don't always get your way because you want to have your way. Like we have this Bill of Rights and we have this Constitution in the United States that prohibits the government from being able to do certain things, and like the the purpose of the Supreme Court of the United States is to uphold the constitutionality. You know what I'm trying to say? Constitutionality of, if I say it with an accent, it sounds all right. The constitutionality
Same with one of them Hillary accents when she wants to sound Southern.
constitutionality. I don't even know what she sounds like anymore,
Yeah.
other than nails on a chalkboard. But the oh, was that not an endorsement? I'm sorry, I do not endorse.
Yeah.
The no, it's sad that that's what it takes, but that's another great demonstration of America is when a branch of government, like the executive branch, uh, does this overreach. The judicial branch corrects it.
Right.
Like same as
That's
when the
that checks
legislative
and
branch.
that's that checks and balances that this country is built
That's
on.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. And when the legislative branch does something, like there's that check and balance. So uh,
And we have that same checks and balances in the House and the Senate within the congressional, and we'll talk about that probably in a little bit. But back to Noah. But yeah, that is it was a complete over. I was talking about right before you came on. That OSHA was created. This is a small business owner of multiple small businesses, right? You have to put those mandatory placards up at the front of your business, right? You always have to put equal opportunity hiring, labor law placards, OSHA placards, right? Regardless of what your business is.
Know your rights.
Right? Know your rights. That OSHA was established for the protection of the employee and the protection to make sure that they were afforded a safe and proper work environment and not be harmed by going to work every day. So to use it and totally bastardize it and spin it to be an enforcement arm of a mandate that the executive branch could not get done any other way, and just say, if you're if you tip over that magic 100 employee, then you have to get vaccinated, was about one of the most egregious abuses of power that I've seen in a long time in this country, if ever, right? But lately there's been so many, I'm not even sure it's still is the most, right? But to sit there and have OSHA now all of a sudden not protect the employee, but victimize the employee and put penalties on the employer for not making the employee do something, with no regards to already having natural antibodies, having natural immunity, nothing like that. Like, nope, everybody gets it. It was. I'm so glad that the Supreme Court, we have what we have in place, and they ruled. Maybe the three that voted for it ruled on partisan lines, but I think the others have shown they ruled based on the Constitution, and I'm glad they did that here.
Yeah, and so I want to caveat something that I kind of touched on quickly, and that's this issue isn't about COVID. Everyone's like, oh, it's about COVID, it's COVID, it's COVID. No, this issue is about your rights. It's about the rights of the individual, and it's about the rights of the business owner, and it's not about COVID. It's about having your liberty infringed upon, and the Supreme Court of the United States rightfully said that you can't do that. What I find sad, though, is how many people lost their job or left their place of employment under protest because they thought they were going to be fired, and they were going to lose severances, they were going to lose compensation packages, and because there was this threat, like Big Brother was going to crush you if you didn't adhere to it. I know people that felt like they had to leave their job.
Let me tell you from a firsthand standpoint, we're gaining possibly where I work some employees that are coming out of the defense contractor industry because the executive branch does have the ability to mandate that they do it. Right? They're government employees or contractors working for the government. And I have a number of folks that I know that have been with major defense contractors for 15, 16, 18 years that are out looking for work now and been talking to me because they're like, I'm not going to get it, and my company X is being forced to do it by like the 18th of January or something like that, and they're like, I'm gone.
Yeah.
They've already told me to let me go because I won't get it. Just like today, so the Supreme Court did rule, and the other flip side was they did support that they could mandate it for healthcare workers. So this is an interesting piece. They could mandate for healthcare any organization receiving Medicare, Medicaid, right, federal government assistance. So that's interesting on a couple things, and I'm sure you want to hit on. One is, oh, you're sucking on my teat, right? Mine being the federal government. Then I get to tell you what to do. It's like kind of like your dad. Oh, you're living under my roof. Then these are the rules. If you don't like it, get out. Oh, you're getting Medicare, Medicaid from me as the federal government, an entitlement, a handout, if you would. Then you're going to follow this rule. So the Supreme Court said it is within their rights to force not private companies, but those that rely on government assistance, or in this case, in the contractors. Not the Supreme Court didn't rule on it, but no one's argued it that defense contractors have to follow what the Defense Department does, and now they did rule today that the Medicare, Medicaid receiving healthcare institutions have to receive it. Now, what's interesting on that, I'm going to get your take on that, is at the same time, you have a number of localities, the state of Rhode Island, I believe Colorado, maybe California now, who had already done mass firings and layoffs of healthcare workers.
I'm about to bring this up.
Right. Who are now inviting them back and saying, it's totally cool. You don't even have the shot. And shit, you can be sick and come on back. We'll just put you on the floors where the sick people are. Come on back. We need you. Our bad. We'd like you to come work for us because we're drowning in like not having people. Go ahead, my friend.
So I'm going to talk about the state of California specifically. And, I'm looking at my phone right now because I'm like, there's this thing I want to bring up. And it's, so I got this sent to me from some nurses I know. I got it from more than one source.
You used to live in California, so you know.
Yeah. And so this is an internal communication at a medical facility about we are on an internal disaster due to critical high census and lack of bed capacity. All right, so like the they are being overwhelmed. Now they earlier in the or late of last year in November, they had an ultimatum that if you didn't get the vaccine, you needed to move on. And so some people, and I was surprised because like this was a big eye opener to me at how many in the healthcare industry had issue with the vaccination or the term vaccination because this was not what it was. And then you get fired for not getting it, and then you get COVID, you get the vaccine, and you get COVID, and they're like forcing you to work and paying you extra. So like yes. So right, this you heard it here. You're hearing what I'm saying. The people that retain their jobs got the shots, the vaccination, and the booster. Right, shoot up. Then they get COVID, right? Because that's how vaccinations work. And then they're going to test positive for COVID for an extended period of time. But the CDC now is like, well, we're going to rethink this. The CDC says like, well, as long as it's out of this 5-day window, you're okay. And so the healthcare workers are being paid a premium to work while testing positive. So like wrap your head around that. They're paying COVID positive healthcare workers more to work. after they just fired people.
Yeah.
and like- and they're being overwhelmed. Like it is the most ridiculous thing. They could have just let let it be.
Right.
Let people make their own choices, affect their own make their own decisions about their body, my choice. We've never heard that.
Right.
And
Well,
they
it's,
would have the staff, and and they wouldn't have to pay people with COVID to work.
right. And what's interesting is that, I guess
Yeah, I'm laughing about it.
they made this threat, but the bluff was called, right? They thought, "Oh, we'll force you. We'll fire you if you don't get your job." And a lot of Americans said, "Peace out." Right? Guess what? The government's throwing me a lot of money for not to work. Bad timing. They didn't think that went through, right? Because like, oh, you're getting all this extra stimulus money, extra $600 a week or whatever, and all that extra money for not working because everyone lost their jobs because of COVID. All these handouts. So people were like, "Cool, I'm not working." Right? Let's see how that works out. And I guess those that, whether in charge of hospitals or maybe the Health and Human Services, whoever was thought that, oh, a few will lose, but people all want their jobs. They did not count on that the same government was giving people more money just about than not to work. And they were like, cool, I get to stay home. Because when you think about it, these aren't truck drivers or bus drivers or people that are ignorant to what the medical industry, I mean, they went to a lot of schooling, they've got certifications. So if they don't want to get a shot, like this isn't like some Joe shit the rag man from down the street that just thinks he knows something and reads too much far right website. These are medical professionals that go, nope, not getting that, not putting that in my body. That should give people a lot of pause and willing to leave their job and lose livelihood over.
No, and we're talking not on political lines here,
right?
And like I want that to be like perfectly clear and understood. This isn't a political discussion. This is a science/medical discussion.
Right. Yeah.
And like the people that work in science/medical, when they have apprehension about something, they're
another.
It's just like a mechanic. It's just like a mechanic. You're like,
right.
Would you put that part on your vehicle? No,
right.
I don't like those tires. They tend to fail. I prefer to use this tire.
Right.
And I don't want you to put those tires on my vehicle.
Right.
Like, why is that? Well, in my experience of changing tires, these blow out and cause injury or death. And these ones tend to like survive and work in environments.
Well, we see it in the medical field, right? Sometimes people are made with a tough decision. Maybe they get a couple of opinions. They look at a doctor or something that they trust and say, would you have this procedure done? Would you get this done? Is it worth the risk? Would you take this experimental treatment, whatever? And sometimes doctors are like, no, I wouldn't do it. Or, yeah, I would do it because the other, if you don't get this, death is a certainty or whatever, right? So people do look for people they consider experts to get their opinion, right? We do it at the restaurant. How many times you've been in a restaurant? I go in sometimes and look at a menu. It's a great meal, a lot of good stuff. I mean, probably 40-50% of the time, I look at the waiter or waitress and go, what do you like? I'm looking at these three things. Which one is your favorite, right? And they'll be honest. They're like, I don't like seafood, so I don't know about that one. Or I don't like spicy stuff, so I'm not sure. But a lot of people order it, or that's our most popular thing, but it's not my thing. I mean, it's something as benign as that. I'll ask, hey, you're the expert. You deal with this every day for hours on end, right? So when you have the medical industry people do that, when you have doctors and nurses and stuff walk out and say no, that should make people think. Doesn't mean they're all right, but at least to me, that is more of an unbiased opinion and consideration than just listening to a party, right? And one way, Toby, this is not political, is because look at the number of teacher unions and other unions who fought back against forcing the vaccine on their people, and unions are hands down fully on the left, right? They are very big supporters of the left. They put big money in the coffers of candidates on the left. No one will argue that unions in general are very heavy Democratic. When they were fighting, and look, the post office is the only part of the government that could be under the purview of the executive order that does not have to have everyone given shots. You know why? The post office has a hell of a union, right? And so All the rest of the executive branch, right? Congress is excluded, the judicial branch is excluded because the president can only force the executive branch. So he's forcing every civilian agency who falls in the executive branch to get the vaccine, except for the post office, right? So that tells you something right there too. And one thing I want to hit on, people have asked me a number of times, Troy, why do you call it a symptom shot? You know, I've been asked this for a while. And why don't you call it a vaccine? So I want to kind of highlight something I found out. I'd heard about it, but I didn't realize till lately. So the CDC has changed the definition of a vaccination twice. They changed it in 2015, and they changed it in September of 2021. So in prior to 2015, a vaccine was something that killed or weakened in order to prevent a disease. So when we've always talked about, the mumps and measles and smallpox, like those were real vaccines because you got it and you never got that virus, right? In 2015, they changed it to producing an immunity to a specific disease, which makes sense, right? Technology had advanced, so I would imagine after that time they realized, hey, we've got these synthetics, and this is just me conjecturing, right? We've got ways to stimulate and produce an immunity in a body, right? To prevent, right, the disease from hitting you, right? Rather than give you something, we have a way to trigger the body to build the natural defense, right? The final protective fire, whatever you want to call it, right? On that thing. In September 2021, this is January 2022. They changed the definition to a vaccine to help the body produce protection from a disease, right? Not immunity, not preventing, protection. So we've talked about it a number of times on the show. I wanted to highlight that for those that are listening and watching. The reason why I've always called it a symptom shot is because all it does is help produce protection. It treats symptoms, which why the flu shot has never been known as the flu shot has never been known in any circles as the flu vaccine, because you're going to get it the next year. Like everyone knows, you got to get a new flu shot. The strain changes, right? You have different variants, and we don't even name it after a Greek alphabet. You just get it. It's a new variant. So, it doesn't prevent you like in the past, the ones I've talked about, where they prevented it or they helped the body trigger an immunity to it so you would never get it again. Now they just moved the goalpost. Now it's not preventing you from ever getting it. Now it's just to give you some temporary protection. So that's why I still have an issue with calling it a vaccine. They can change the definition all they want, but I've been around longer than September 2021, and I just can't break old habits. So I'll just pause right there.
No, and that's the thing is that we're playing semantic games, and a guy that I've kind of admired the way that he's handled it is Senator Rand Paul, and he's gone at Dr. Fauci specifically on several occasions over these like semantics. Like you can change the definition, but you can't change the truth. Like you can change the words and be like, well, I'm going to conveniently say that gain of function is actually this, not this anymore. But the reality is like if you manipulate something so that it is more transmittable, like that's gain of function. And I think it's convenient how like we have all these spin doctors, all these PR people that are telling the story versus like the actual facts.
I blame it on Bill Clinton. I did not, what it is right. I didn't have sex with that woman. I didn't know that was sex. I seriously, you trace it back.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the first case. Maybe it's not the first case, but the most famous recent case, right? Yeah. Of spinning something.
Yeah. I did not.
Let me see. Let me hear your Bill. Where's your Bill Clinton impersonation?
I don't really have. I wish I had one. Like
I've heard some good ones.
I did not have sexual relations.
You know who does a good one is Doug. Doug does a great one. We should get him on to do some. We should have him do some fake sound bites for us. But no, it is. I just wanted to hit on the vaccine thing because like people, it hits me on that time, and sometimes I'll catch myself calling a vaccine. I'm like, oh, I mean symptom shot. It doesn't roll off the tongue as easy as vaccine, but I just have a hard time calling a vaccine. Yeah, so I mean the SCOTUS ruling was big today. It maybe not for those that are hospitals and stuff, they still got to do their thing and stuff, but for those organizations out there that maybe had 101 people that didn't want to fire two, they can keep those 2 employees now and stay at 101. They don't have to get it below. They don't have to get down to 99 employees, right? It's like who's going to take one for the team here? But so that was big news. It was not a good day. I know you haven't been keeping up on the news, Toby. It was not a good day for the administration today. The president is now admitting, after giving a fiery, hate-filled speech yesterday in Atlanta about the election reform, that he has 2 Democratic senators at a minimum, maybe 3, who said they're not voting for it, so they're not going to get this election reform law through that called for everyone to get an absentee ballot whether they wanted it or not, and a whole bunch of other stuff that would just have enhanced and enabled mass corruption in the election. Oh, and changed the Constitution where not being in the power of the states, but it would have enforced a federal management of our national election process, which the Constitution says it's on the states to handle. So it would have went through tons of lawsuits anyways. But that happened today. It was a lot of bad stuff. Kamala messed up a whole bunch of stuff today. It's been a bad day. But
well, what did she do?
Well, you have to see it. I'll tell you what, if you could ever hear someone give an answer that's probably 15 to 20 words long and never say one thing in that answer, that happened today on an interview they aired with her about what they're doing with the pandemic. And I don't have the soundbite handy. I'm sure Rob will put it up. But they pretty much, she was asked a question by NBC. She gave like say a 15 to 20 word answer, and everyone probably went, "What was that? Like, you didn't really say anything." It was the most political spin crap you'd ever heard. But yeah, and they even asked her about the rumors that are going around about a Hillary Cheney ticket in 2024, and she was not having that. You could tell she wasn't cackling. I guarantee she was not doing that. It was she got
like Liz Cheney.
Yeah, so there's people that are talking about a Liz Cheney ticket and all this kind of stuff, and they're coming up with all these tickets that could be possibles. Kamala's not on any of them, and nor there is Joe Biden. So that kind of miffed her a little bit too. But I want to talk about that. Hillary making a comeback. They're talking of it. A lot of Dems in the leading Dem circles are rumoring and spreading things about she's their best chance. I mean, they're looking at Liz Warren, they're looking at Buttigieg, they're looking at Beto, they're looking at other yeah, she may be the only thing we have in 2024. Their argument, my God, is saying, well, she's younger than Joe Biden. Toby, she's 77 years old. Joe Biden, I think, just turned 80 or 79 or about to turn 80. We're talking 2024. I don't know. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but if she's 77 now, plus 2 is 79, she's right there. It's kind of the same thing there. You're not far off. Yeah. So it's, yeah, go ahead.
Like, throw the age thing out. What are they saying? Like, and just work with me, since I don't get access to everything here that you do. What are they saying that she's their best chance at
winning the presidential, at being their Democratic president?
But
no one else has name recognition or is liked. She has the biggest.
Yeah. So, like, they think that she's got the best shot against who?
For the Democrats in general. I don't think they're even. Yeah. I'm not sure they're even looking at who as much as they are just the Democrats. Yeah.
I mean, because I got to be honest with you. There's I don't know if it's true or not, but like, she doesn't have the best chance against Trump.
No, I think I heard one person say it the best way. If you want to enact and invigorate the right, put Hillary Clinton back in there. That will get people coming out of it.
That's why I'm like a little confused. I mean, she's their best chance against who? Someone she's already lost to?
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's not making any sense. Yeah.
Like, and to take a step further, like, even with all her warts, and all the money in the world, she couldn't pull it off. So, like, she is not their best chance. I mean, the the I mean, I'm not a strategist for their party, but like they need to stop putting losers up for chances at the plate. I
Right.
mean, that's like the Democratic way. Let's keep throwing losers into the batting box to swing at like just like straight heaters that keep coming down the pipe. There's like Beto. Let's talk about Beto. I mean, here's a guy that went from a congressional seat, goes for a senatorial seat, uh, uh, loses, goes for a presidential, gets pounded in the primaries, and it's like lost, and now it's going to try and like go for a gubernatorial run. You got these. You can't keep putting losers up like Kamala. I mean, Kamala was like one of the worst performers in the primary, and you put her in the House and you fail. You can't keep putting like Buttigieg or Warren. Like they're all losers.
Right.
Like they've all lost, and they're struggling, like in their jobs. Like Buttigieg is, my understanding, he's not doing the best that he could as a cabinet member, right? And then again, the cabinet position that he's holding isn't really the conducive to inspiring like leadership that you want.
And when he had the chance, when there was a major backlog at the ports, he was on his 4 months of paternity leave, because him and his gay husband adopted a baby. So he took his 4 months off right after swearing in the job, like during the height of the transportation crisis of truckers and ports being backed up. The dude was out of office. Right.
Yeah, like
that was your one chance. You had one job. It was your one time to shine. How many transportation secretaries have ever found themselves like in a critical time in a country's history that you can remember? When has that ever happened? Maybe 9/11 when we shut down all of our logistics. Maybe but that was not the most important. There was a lot of other stuff, but they were probably a pretty important person. But mostly transportation is like no one ever knows who they are until maybe a major bridge collapses or something, right?
Yeah, no, like, and that's the thing is, like Hillary, I don't think she can shed the baggage. I don't think she can shed the baggage. Like she's a corrupt individual that's been demonstrably corrupt. She like I mean, they think they can go past the email stuff again.
Right.
They think they can get past like the servers. Like they think they can get past like
Benghazi.
Benghazi. Do you think they can get past I think the election was stole from me? Oh my gosh. Like people are still like harping about, the whole last election being stolen. Like she's the one that started it. She's the original. It was stolen from me.
Right.
Like I don't understand how anyone could say that she's their best shot. Also, like, I don't understand how I keep getting these ads on my Facebook feed or Instagram feed to take a master class from either her or her husband on leadership. Like, have you seen that? Like,
I've seen it. Yeah,
like,
she did the video.
Like
where, the one. Like, the people are paying for that, right? And she recently she did one where she read what was going to be her acceptance speech, and she cried and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, if I'm going to take a master's class from someone that's on leadership, you and I can't count off names fast enough.
Yeah.
Mostly in the military world, that we would say, that's who's a master. That's a doctorate in leadership, in that guy right there, right? And that's I can think of many more people, right? Many more people in leadership.
Beware the person that only aspires to be in public office.
Right.
Like you're in your 70s. You have plenty of money. Your husband's the former president. Like this is clearly an egotistically driven event. This is not altruistic. This isn't the people want me. The reason people are like willing to say like sees their best chances, because nothing can be worse than what we currently have. And like,
We would
there's
hope.
nothing,
We would hope.
there's nothing more flattering than being like, well, at least you're better than the worst piece of shit that we've had in the history of the country. Like,
You got nowhere to go but up. But
yeah, like, I mean, you're our best chance at like not being rock bottom.
right, right.
Like,
Well, I'd be interested to hear. We got we just had someone call in, a very good friend of ours, a good guest, our most frequent guest and guest host, who probably has an opinion or two about this. Welcome to the show, Mr. David Bellavia.
David Bellavia.
How you guys doing, man?
Good. How are you doing?
Buddy.
What's happening?
I'm doing good, doing good. It's a pretty crazy day for news to break.
It is. It was a hot day, and it was right after you went off the air. A lot of it did. So that's why I was like, man, I bet Dave would love to come on tonight and break his opinions here, which, you won't get in any trouble here. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, it was crazy, but the problem all along with this administration has been that they know what they're doing is unconstitutional. They know there's workarounds. That they're so brazen enough they tweet it. And so what they're doing is they're buying time, much like the Democrats did, by the way, pre-Civil War, which is, we're not going to federally get these laws passed. So guess what? You states, you go ahead and cover down for us. You got time. I'm going to buy you time. I'm going to set up an unconstitutional federal mandate. And while it eats its way at the court, New York State, New Jersey, Connecticut, blue states, Illinois, go ahead and pass your restrictions. And then when it's thrown out, like the CDC controlling your rent, OSHA controlling, who gets vaccinated at work, they know that they've eaten enough time where the states and their legislatures can pass their own laws.
Yeah, it's an interesting comparison you gave to the pre-Civil War time, but honestly, it's it is a lot of similarities in there. And Dave, I was talking earlier about when I remember when President Biden put in this OSHA mandate. I remember this distinctly. It was the day before hunting season. It was November 19th. I was listening to you that night on my way to hunting camp, and you were just like going off on it. So today we had the ruling, right? Just a few days after the Supreme Court heard it, literally 2 days after it was supposed to be enforced. And I'm just curious of what your thoughts are now that the SCOTUS has at least shot down the organizational enforcement by OSHA mandate on those with over 100 employees.
I didn't think that was a shock. To me, when you look at Kavanaugh, again, Roberts and Kavanaugh, it's upsetting to ideologues who think that they're going to be blanket conservatives. But if you look at when Kavanaugh was in the D.C. Circuit, when you had Roberts, and even when he was being confirmed, this is not a guy who believes that you change things. You basically, he gives the benefit of the doubt, to the defendant, and when the defendant's the government, saying, look, if there is a thing that you do control, I can at least give you that Medicare and Medicaid at least have federal strings attached to them. There's always different things you got to jump through hoops if you're going to accept Medicaid and Medicare money. Therefore, you can then make requests based on accepting Medicaid and Medicare money. That's going to be the argument from Kavanaugh and Roberts every single time. And, the military, well, you really can't argue with the military. The federal government can do whatever they want. Right. This is what they control. I understand it. But this is a complete overstretch. But if you look at the decision that was made in the case with employers in OSHA, over 100 employees at OSHA, it really contradicts everything Kavanaugh is saying in his decision for Medicaid and Medicare, with the exception that at least the federal government has control over it. So it's wildly confusing. It's very similar to when John Roberts made two rulings in a row on gay marriage. And the previous day he was saying, the states control driver's licenses. The states make these decisions. This federal overreach, it's unnecessary. It's burdensome. And then the next day he's like, gay marriage, let's make it federal. I mean, it really is wildly confusing, but that's just who these guys are.
Right. And it's you're right. I guess it wasn't surprising they ruled this way, thankfully, because of who the judges were that were put in place, and they're more constitutionalist than just partisanship. But I also foresaw a ton of lawsuits that were going to come out of this, if not already lining up. Even though I was telling Toby, we know some people, I know you do too, in the defense contractor industry that are losing their jobs because they're kind of tied to the Department of Defense, and they've told those defense contractors, if you're going to do business with us, your people are going to get shots. And there's a lot of people leaving those organizations. That's a big brain drain that's going to happen.
It is. The problem that the government's going to have, and again, these didn't come up in the Missouri case. This hasn't happened yet. And, Alabama has a case in northern Alabama. There's another case that's happening in Ohio, and there's one in New York State, in fact. But the issue that hasn't, because this is fairly new in the last 3 months, a lot of these cases came about, and their arguments over the vaccination were based on, you can't force me to do this. The nuanced approach that you're going to see, being amended to these lawsuits is, what's the point of taking it? Because if you're making the statement now and you're using the argument of, I can't get it, I can't transfer it, I can't get other people sick, I can't get sick myself, this was the argument used by legislators and the court by saying, yeah, we were trying to stop this thing. We're going to get COVID zero if everyone in your business gets vaccinated.
Right.
So that argument has really not been thrown at the courts yet. And I'd be curious as to see, again, I've got 21,000 employees at the CDC. 75% of those employees are still working from home. Not a single case, not a single study has been done on natural immunity. I mean, it's completely, it befuddles me that no one has any curiosity whatsoever about how long natural immunity is. Let's let the Israelis do it. Let's let the Taiwanese do it. Let's let what is the CDC doing all day? I mean, where are these studies being done? Who's got the home version of the centrifuge in their apartment complex right now as they're working from home? I mean, that's what the Wuhan lab was a bunch of people working from home.
Right.
That's how we got this thing. I need you in the lab. I need you bottled up, and I need you finding, do the studies. I'm so lost as to why we've got no one doing any studies or reports or papers on natural immunity, the effects. How is it better? Is it worse? No one cares.
I think the only people working at the CDC are the ones getting in front of the cameras and pushing the narrative. But you're right. I mean, they don't even know what the duration of the different shots were. Right. First, it was get the shot, you're good. Then it was like, you may need a booster. Now they're already talking about a second booster in the fall. Right. They're already saying again. Now they're trying to get in this every 6 or 8 month cycle, but they don't know for sure. Right. Because, they're saying, hey, Omicron may last longer. You may get longer immunity out of Omicron than earlier versions. Today, I saw a report that Omicron today the CDC saying it's making up 97 or 98% of the cases right now in the U.S. Right. So does it last longer? But they haven't done the studies on the shots, much less on the natural immunity and the natural immunity by variant, right? And whether it's Flurona, Omicron, Delta, Alpha, whatever it is. So, yeah, another big thing.
Well, listen, I
go ahead.
Well, I mean, I heard a military guy making the argument that it was, it's just like anthrax. No one wanted anthrax, but you needed anthrax. You didn't need to prove if you were going to be exposed to anthrax. And my response to that was, unless, of course, anthrax was going through your battalion and you were immune from anthrax. I mean, the point here is that SARS-CoV-1 has been with us for 17 years. We've been dealing with SARS-CoV-1, all the mutations, all the variations of what SARS-CoV-1 has been. And yet SARS-CoV-1, no one has been reinfected on record. The numbers are 44 in literature. 44 people have been reinfected with SARS-CoV-1. Somehow CoV-2 is different, but yet in 2 years, no one can make that explanation. And I guess that's my main problem is that I consider intelligence. Smart people are able to explain difficult things to stupid people. That's what makes you intelligent. You can take complicated issues and break them down for people that aren't as intelligent as you. And what I'm seeing right now is people are like, do you trust science? Do you trust doctors? Well, the same science, it told me the polar ice caps were going to melt 15 years ago. The same science told me we don't want to repurpose drugs for COVID. That would be irresponsible. But yet you're giving 17-year-old boys estrogen, and science is all on board with that. What do the long-term 50-year studies say when I start injecting boobies into a 17-year-old boy? Is that healthy? Is that what science is behind? Because if you get a hysterectomy, a doctor's waiting 4 months to give your wife hormones because they're worried about your kidney and your liver, right? We don't want to repurpose drugs when it comes to COVID, but you have no problem repurposing hormones when it comes to someone who makes a decision to change their gender. So again, science is very schizophrenic. And you can go to 7 years. Go to college for 7 years doesn't make you smart. It makes you a doctor. And I've seen a whole lot of people, 300 people went to Spotify and said, fire Joe Rogan and censor him. And about 70% of those same doctors are the same people that said Black Lives Matter protests are more important than COVID. Go out there and protest police brutality. Don't worry. Doctors support this. We support you going out and speaking your First Amendment mind, talking about police brutality. It's the same ideologues. Right. I go to these doctors' websites and their Twitter pages, and they're all saying what? Resist. They're anti-gun. These are ideologues. So, yeah, when those folks stand up, I think we can all look at each other and say, if you're science, I don't trust science.
Right. Well, Fauci claims he's science, right? So he's already taken that moniker. But no, in 17, you're being nice. In the state of Washington now, apparently as young as 13 can get transgender surgery procedures and processes started without even getting parents' permission now in the state of Washington. So, 17's a late bloomer. But another thing I want to hit on, another big thing today, Dave, was the voting legislation. That was we saw the president go down to Atlanta, yesterday and give a very loud, yelling, hateful sounding speech. He's caught a lot of flack about that. And today you had, when he was getting ready to go over there and twist some arms to get them to vote for this voting legislation, he had a couple of his own Dems, Sinameni as one of them, got up there, went to the House floor and was like, not no, but hell no, you're not going to get rid of the filibuster. It just astounded me that when you have Biden, you've had Schumer, and we got it all on tape of where they have talked against, the nuclear option, getting rid of the filibuster in years past. Now are all of a sudden for it. To think that they're that short-sighted that they would get rid of it and that it would never come back and bite them later. But it was a major blow today to the administration to not get something through that the last 72 hours they've been claiming up and down they're going to have happen.
I'll tell you what, if this administration could do a 2-hour live national address on Man Bear Pig, they would. I mean, they're looking for anything. They're looking for anything to distract what's happening. I mean, look, the more these numbers come out, inflation, shelf, supply chain, these are all forced errors. You've got a 33% approval rating with a 5% margin of error. This guy could be at 28%. Prostate cancer has a higher approval rating than Joe Biden does. If you go to Iowa right now, this guy's approval rating is at 12% in Iowa. We're not talking 1994 Republican Revolution in the midterms. We're talking something that has not happened in probably 130 years. You've got to go almost, post-Reconstruction to see something that is going to be this cataclysmic. And the problem here isn't what the ideologues, the Republicans, the Democrats think. It's what those blank independents are thinking. And again, he's talking about voting rights legislation, and why not make the statement about New York State? New York State doesn't have early voting rules the way Georgia does.
Delaware doesn't have it. Delaware has 8 days, and this is the first year they're going to have it. They've never had it until this year.
So why isn't Joe Biden making a phone call to Kathy Hochul and saying, my God, stop restricting people's right to vote? I mean, even the food and the water handout is absurd. New York State has a law that if you're part of a campaign, you cannot hand out gifts, which is food, bumper stickers, T-shirts, water. You can't give anything if you're part of a campaign and you're walking up and down while people are waiting in line to vote. So this is actually the same law that's in New York State. It's in Illinois. It's in Maryland. It's in Massachusetts. Blue states have this law. You can't just walk around and hand out whatever you want to hand out and say, make sure you vote for my guy.
And if those that don't know it, for those that don't know it, that was in this legislation, was to allow them to give out food and things like that while people are waiting to vote. That was literally a call out of this, just so people know. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
So I mean, it's not ABC News. I ran this audio on the program today. ABC News had a woman, African American woman, who basically said, "I don't know what to do. What I do after work, I don't know what to do." Now, what the ABC didn't tell you, they gave her name, and of course, everyone on Twitter is a detective. She works at the Barack and Michelle Obama Academy. All right. Now, first of all, that probably would have been cool to put out there that she's a teacher at the Barack and Michelle Obama Academy. Second, wouldn't it be crazy if the Barack and Michelle Obama Academy was also a polling place? That'd be kind of weird, wouldn't it? And it is, in fact. So this woman is claiming that because of the Georgia law, she doesn't know where to vote anymore. So the next question, if you were an honest journalist, would be, have you ever voted before? Do you just, on election day, just wander in the streets with your palms open? Like, what am I supposed to do? You are essentially stating the only way you can vote is if you put your ballot on the street and a random van picks it up. A third-party collector takes your ballot, and that's the only way you know how to vote. Well, that's never happened before 2020. It's never happened before. No one allowed third-party people to collect ballots, drop them off in Samsonite briefcases at 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, a water main broke. No, it didn't, but we found these votes in the dumpster. I mean, it's absurd. There's no one in their right mind that's going to tell you that this is the way we want future elections to be run. And it's insane for anyone to say they don't know how to vote. And again, it's the same argument we made with black people, and black people don't know where to get the vaccine. Black people don't know where pharmacies are. Black people don't have IDs. But yet you walk into a restaurant and the first thing they ask you for is a vaccine passport in New York and your ID. It's okay to show ID there, but not to vote. All of this is collapsing. It's a house of cards. And you can only be stupid for so long before rational Americans are saying, I don't buy it.
Right. Well, and it's only so long you can keep hearing it, and you eventually realize that what they're saying is it's not just a partisan thing. It's not just it's fake news put out by Trump or whatever. It's like they're really saying this. And we saw it the other day, right? What was it a few weeks ago? I think it was an MSNBC reporter was all mad. Journalist or anchor was mad because they wouldn't let him into a restaurant in New York City because his kids didn't have a vaccination. Right. And he started going,
4-year-old.
Yeah, his 4-year-old did a vaccination. Yeah. And he said, well, he's only 4. And like, we don't care. No vaccination card, no come in, no eating. Right. It was like,
I'm waiting for, you know what I'm waiting for, Troy? And I actually referenced you today because I said, I made a comment about staying warm and all the dudes down range that cut the trigger finger out of their glove. I always said, that was, if you had your finger cut out, every other finger is covered in a glove, but the right index finger was cut loose like you're Billy the Kid. I always thought that was a telltale sign that, something's that's a 71 Lima. That ain't no combat arms guy. But you know what I'm saying? The two telltale signs were chrome handcuffs hanging off your IBA. Like, if you got chrome handcuffs, you have never, ever been. And then you cut your finger out of your gloves just because you got to have that ready. Got to have that butterfly kiss at the trigger. But I was saying that when you look at when you look at these folks that are, when is the movement going to come about that 5'3" people should be airborne? That's what I want to know. The Army, you got folks in the old guard that have to be 6 foot tall and a certain type.
Right.
I want to see a 5'2",
discrimination.
5'2", 285-pound dude show up and be like, why can't I guard the Tomb of the Unknown? Why can't I jump out of an airplane? I'm 4'11". I did 7 seasons on Fantasy Island. I want to jump out. I want to serve in the 82nd Airborne. I don't think it's fair.
Yeah. No, it's discrimination at the greatest level. He wants to get on the plane too.
That M1950 weapons case is taller than he is. It can't give him an M4
traverse. Yeah, his T&E weighs more than he does.
Yeah. No, it's
that's what they call it. He is a threat.
the voting legislation, what got me, the biggest thing out of all that stuff, Dave, was the fact that they were trying to change what is mandated in the Constitution, right? So this is the same party that has been crying foul for a 1 year and 7 days since January 6th last year about how dare anyone want to change the constitutional process of Congress ratifying the election, which I absolutely agree with, right? Nobody should have tried to impact that. But here we are. The Constitution states that the state that declares, I say to keep the language clear, that states are responsible for the execution of the elections, and they were going to federally take over that by what? Just that willy nilly. To me, that seems like a full amendment to the Constitution, not something they can just pass on a 51 vote spread from the Senate in a barely.
That's a convention.
Yes, absolutely. I just didn't see how that was even going to last. If they even did that today, how that could have passed any kind of Supreme Court or any legal constitutional scholars' view of how the Constitution can be amended. Because that is an amendment to the Constitution, is it not?
Listen, we're talking about a political apparatus that's telling you that if you're white, you're not going to get monoclonal antibodies. I mean, we're losing people to COVID. We've got people that are sick with COVID. Where the hell is I should know. They should make a song like the 1877 Cars for Kids. Everyone should know where the hell to get monoclonal antibodies. There should be, instead of seeing, Steve Barnes and Celino Firm, I need to see the 1-800 line to get monoclonal antibodies. There's 360 million kits. That's enough for every American citizen and maybe 10 or 12 billion illegals. You never know. We have enough for everyone. Why aren't we issuing monoclonal antibodies everywhere? It makes no sense. Zero sense. So Florida, screw you. We're taking your monoclonal antibodies and we're going to treat it like the Senate and give every state two. I mean, right. It's criminal at this point. It makes no sense. And then when you finally get in line to get monoclonal antibodies, the hospital won't administer them to you. They won't give them to you. Why? Because the CDC said, we don't recommend it. Is there a medical reason why I can't get them in the hospital? Is there a medical reason? Is there any journal, any white paper, any doctor that wants to put his reputation on the table and say, you can give monoclonal antibodies outside of the ER, it's healthy, but as soon as you walk into the ER, it's not healthy. It makes no sense. There's no medical reason for it. There's no scientific reason for it. And people are dying. And as we just found out how many people are administered in the hospitals with COVID or because of COVID, we have no curiosity. 860,000 people. Did they die with or die of? George Floyd, turns out he died of COVID, right? George Floyd had COVID.
Yeah.
He's killed. Is he a COVID death or not?
Right, he did have COVID, and if they would have judged him like they or classified him like they did everyone else at the same time, we know this guy was on a motorcycle with no helmet and split his head open, mark him down, and he had COVID. He got it from the pavement, and they definitely didn't treat it that way. Interesting, you mentioned that they took him from Florida because you think they'd want him in Florida because it seems like every liberal is running to Florida right now to vacation and catch COVID at the same time. I'm just saying. You think that they'd want to have him down there to keep AOC and them from catching it.
What it's all about, man.
You got the what is it? The mayor of Baltimore. Is it the mayor of Baltimore that was just brought up on charges, fraud charges today? And one of the things is she's taken that money and stolen the money and bought 2 houses in Florida, right? It's just like that. Everyone is running down there. But you're right. The monoclonal antibodies is I don't know. Would it be classified as a treatment? Or I guess it's classified as a treatment once you get it versus like just writing it out.
Well, I got news for it. Booster shot now is considered a treatment, right? I mean, what else could you consider that? If it's a wet vaccine, it's a treatment. It reduces your chances of death and hospitalization. It's not something that's going to, and you've got to keep taking it. So it's not, that's a treatment too. We've got a lot of treatments out there. No one seems to want to talk about any of the other therapeutics,
right?
Outside of vaccinations. And I mean,
nobody except Joe Rogan.
You can say whatever. Joe Rogan's treating the world right now.
Right.
Joe Rogan is like, hey, I want the Rogan.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up Governor Hochul too. I want to bring up something else. I don't know if you talked about this on your show or not, Dave, but I think this Friday or this Saturday, January 15th, Governor Hochul, the governor of New York's emergency power orders run out. Right. So also she has stated is that every student returning back to a state university has to have the booster starting on the 15th also for them to go back to school. They all start going back to school on the 24th in the state of New York. So there's parents now asking, well, her emergency order powers run out on Saturday. How can she enforce that? So there's I don't know what's going to come of that. I don't know if they're going to extend them, but I mean, if a governor like that has these emergency powers and they issue a mandate that every student must have this shot, including faculty now. They didn't have faculty wasn't mandated for, but now her orders are going to run out. So does she still do they still have to be enforced? Do they still have to be followed? And what is California and other states doing along that same line, which I'm sure kind of following New York's footprint?
I tell you, I can't trust a governor with teeth that big. It's like, there's veneers and then there's Jim Carrey in The Mask. This woman looks like Matt Dillon in Something About Mary. I've never seen porcelain. It's like, as her ambition grows, her porcelain veneers get 3 millimeters longer and wider. I thought she was related to. I thought maybe she was related to John Elway, but I wasn't sure. I thought maybe there was a distant cousin.
I'll tell you,
she's the anti-Stacey Abrams. She's obviously she's out of control, man.
Oh, that's why I love having you on here. You can say that stuff on here because you know there's probably no way you'd be able to say that on your regular show. But maybe you would. You like to see what you can do there. But no, it's been definitely been a bad day. I mean, we've got bare shelves, we've got ships still backed up. You got Hillary trying to make her comeback like she's LL Cool J. A lot of stuff, and then you got Abrams, not going to the major speech for voting legislation when that is what she's hanging her entire hat on. Yet she had an oil change she had to get or something like that, and was too busy to show up with the president. It's not a good day to be in the White House, I don't think.
No, it's not.
And let me ask you one more thing. You're a pretty sharp guy constitutionally and everything. Is it? I mean, I heard the other day that the president is not going to give his State of the Union until March. I thought it had to be done like in January. Is that not the case? Can he wait till March?
Do you know what's really crazy? Because I'm a big fat nerd, you don't actually need to do the State of the Union.
Yeah, you can just send a letter,
right? You just have to write a letter, right?
That's it.
Right.
Look at the big brain on Toby.
Look at that big brain Canadian living in Mexico.
Yeah. Listen, he's right though. It was originally the mandate is that you have to brief Congress on the State of the Union once a year.
Right.
Traditionally, it was not done in front of a bicameral House of Congress until I want to say maybe the 20s was the first time it was done.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
and then they took some years off. So you really don't need to do it at all. There has been times when they've been delayed in the past. And, but who wants, and now that Ruth Bader Ginsburg's passed away, we don't have to watch a Supreme Court justice go into a narcolepsy. It is rather uncomfortable. She was like, this Supreme Court is brought to you by the letter C. She's just like bent over, like literally kissing her own knees. It was horrific to watch. But if you want to get to the bottom of what could possibly bring the Democrats to stand up and applaud. I mean, what is it? Jen Psaki was asked today, what's your success? We're coming up to a year since you've been president. What if you want to hang your hat on? And there was literally like nothing. Every piece of legislation is dead on the vine. You can't get anything you want. And you're blaming Manchin and Sinema. And honestly, I don't know what the point. I would delay it too.
You think maybe they're hoping for something in February to come up so they can have a. That's kind of my thought. Is either he needed more sunlight to stay awake, or they're just praying that God something good's got to happen in February, right before.
I got in a lot of hot water because I had a personal conversation with someone who obviously can't be trusted at a cable news network, and the next thing I know, I had a lot of stars coming at me on personal cell phone calls about the statement that I had made. But I was very upset that they took 3 Medal of Honor ceremonies and made them into a Netflix, series there and
Right.
made it into one ceremony. And the reason why they did that is because they did not want to talk about Afghanistan. This administration is absolutely paranoid about bringing up anything that's happening with foreign policy. And if we can just do all these Medal of Honor ceremonies, maybe on a Zoom call, we'll do that. But what an absolute disservice to the recipients, to the families, to put that all into one was absolutely disrespectful. It didn't need to happen. You would think the administration would want a time when America can come together and at least celebrate valor on the battlefield. But again, that's not what they're thinking. These are political animals. They don't want to talk about anything having to do with, the time that the State Department chose to evacuate 150,000 people from Teterboro Airport instead of JFK. They don't want to answer these questions. They literally want to ignore it, and they took 3 Medal of Honor ceremonies and turned it into a NBC special.
Well,
and it's disgusting.
Well, you know how dumb they're if they were thinking smart, they would have stretched that out over a few months to have this good news keep happening. Because the 15-minute,
Absolutely.
the 30-minute news cycle, it was forgotten about in a month, right? If they had one in December, one in January, one in February, they could say, look what we're doing. But to give no notice of the family, I mean, I know what it took, being part of yours, how much that took and how much led up to that, to give these families no notice and try to jam all those people in there. And, obviously not give each family their due to bring all the guests that they'd want to bring per person. Yeah, obviously there's no way they brought in all the people that they could bring in all the guys from these guys' units.
They got one. They got a +1.
Right.
They got a +1. It was ridiculous. And I'll tell you another thing. Look, I've been critical of Army leadership, DOD leadership, but I gotta tell you, I really feel bad for General Milley and for Secretary Austin, because it really, there's a lot of people out there that believe that, Milley, Austin, we've got Delta Force guys running 82nd Airborne now. These are studs, man. These were guys that piled up terrorists left and right for over 20 years. They understand what standoff distance is and outer and inner cordons. They understand how they provide route clearance. They know what they're doing. This isn't a DOD issue. No one in the Army said this is the plan. No one in the Army said evacuate Bagram. No one in the Air Force said this is a good idea. These are Ben Rhodes scholars. They're all people that looked at the Obama administration, thought, look at how great, they smell their own farts, they drive their Audis, they walk around and they're like, this is the plan. We're going to bring China to its knees with sanctions. Russia's not going to invade because of sanctions. And you know what? We can work with the Taliban. Well, then we find out in a Friday release at 7 p.m. that the kid that blows himself up and kills our brave and brightest outside of Abbey Gate was actually in Taliban custody. That he was released by the Taliban. Isn't that something?
Right. Well, the bad news always gets released on Friday. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, we knew that on the day it happened. We knew it on the day it happened. It's garbage. And the DOD has had to wear Afghanistan and the egress out of Afghanistan. And none of these – and you want to talk about the anger. You want to talk about the bitterness. Walk into the Pentagon now. It's the most disturbing thing. These guys have a chip on their shoulder, and they are so pissed off. They are so pissed off at the way this administration, the way the State Department – has thrown them under the bus. CENTCOM commander McKenzie's out there like he doesn't know. This guy cut his teeth in Anbar Province, man. He's done 7 years in Iraq and Afghanistan. You don't think he looked at that plan and said, this is complete BS? What are they supposed to do? You're going to have a night of long knives and just lose your entire, the chiefs of staff of every branch of service? What are they supposed to do? The State Department owns it. The State Department put their signature on it, and the military wore it. And we bled and we died, and everyone now wants to run around and point fingers. But the reality is these guys are royally pissed off. They can't believe what's happening to our military, and they don't know where to look.
I can't believe, I mean, Doug's mentioning this in the chat, that there have not been more like Pentagon Papers. There haven't been, these guys haven't been leaking it to their source of stuff, because if it's true, right, and I believe you that some of these leaders, are pissed about this too, they know how to get stuff into reporters' hands and be like, hey, like everyone's against this. They know how to make it bad for the administration if they wanted to without ever risking their rank and career and all that kind of stuff, that nobody's done that.
Well, who released our suicide bomber? Where did that come from? Yeah. That didn't come from the White House.
I guess that's
that
a good
didn't
point.
Come from the State Department. No, I mean, all the leaks are coming. What you have is you have a legacy media that just doesn't want to cover the story. I mean, listen, the way the drone got hit, that was certainly the way that CENTCOM handled that drone was a clear, that was about as crystal clear as it can be that the DOD is not going to play games. Because I'm telling you, no one in the DOD, when you know enough about, you don't have to be a drone operator to know that you have to have eyes on for a certain amount of time. And there's a lot of times that the intel on the ground will call something up. They'll reach out to whatever commander is working a unit and say, this is our guy, we're positive, take it out. Well, a lot of people confirmed and were positive and said, take it out. Our guys pull the trigger and the people in uniform do it. And all of a sudden it's a DOD problem. That's not a DOD kill and that's not a DOD problem. That was a complete colossal F-up with someone who came from an area, and you had a tremendous amount of bureaucratic pressure that said, we have got to get a blood count for what just happened to Abbey. We've got to have something. Shoot a cruise missile into a jungle gym. We've got to do something. Is there an aspirin factory in the Sudan? Can we blow up something?
Well, what wasn't covered was the two guys in the white Corolla, which is obviously the most popular car in all the Middle East. They got smoked out near. They got smoked out to the east of Kabul. That got hit, and it was within 24 hours. They said we had two of our guys we know were involved. We hit them in the middle of the desert. That was the first hit. That's never been talked about since. But there were no witnesses. There were no cameras or nothing. It was just two poor bastards.
You're talking about the guys you're talking about the two guys in the tuk-tuk.
Yeah, and it's just like some dude just getting he's getting his tuk-tuk Uber, and all of a sudden they're like, that looks like a good target, man. That was a
They killed Borat the dancing bear at a tuk-tuk.
Yeah.
And but honestly though, if you ask the administration today, did American coalition forces ever leave the Karzai International Airport? Did any orbital platforms leave the airport to pick up anyone? The State Department and the White House will say no. We stayed in the gate. Those were the orders. The DOD has leaked multiple sorties, multiple missions where they went out to grab American citizens. They had special forces, special ops, MARSOC, you name it, and they did it. And that they still won't admit to that.
Right.
They still won't say that our forces went out to get Americans, and they did.
Right, they did, and they kept that for whatever reason. It was felt that they wanted to make it sound like they were just staying inside the wire, probably because they didn't want people to go, well, if you're willing to do that for these people, go do it for all these other folks, right? But what would look bad
exactly that's my point.
Yeah, what looked bad is you had the French and everyone else and the Brits going, we're going to get ours, right? And a lot of people are like, wait a minute, why are these other countries going to get their people? Why can't we go get our own? Especially when we knew there were hundreds, if not that. Oh, I lost my mic for a second there. Hopefully you can still hear me.
I mean, why not ask the French to get our people too?
Right. And, can you pick up, when you're going down Bakalakadaka Street, can you swing by, Durga Street and pick up a couple folks we got over there, It's like, that would have been the nice thing to do for sure. But, no, that's good. Toby had to drop, so I don't want to keep you too long, Dave, but, he had to go. But, anything else you want to cover while we got you? I mean, I'll go as long as you want, but I know it's late. You've had a long day yourself, so I don't want to keep you, too much. Anything else you want to hit on that we're talking about tonight?
No, just I love what you guys do, and I appreciate you, and that's about it. When you got to come back on the program?
I know we've got to talk about that. Your people didn't want me on all the time, so I haven't been on in a while. But I'm starting to hear a lot of the regulars come back. So hopefully,
I will just do 30. We'll just do 30 minutes.
Yeah, which is what we which is what we did before. We can do that. I used to block out my work schedule ready for that every Thursday afternoon, but
let's do it. Let's do it tomorrow.
All right, let me look at what I got tomorrow. I'll ping you and see. But I haven't been on in a while. You make fun of me about.
I need to get you.
What's that?
I need to get you to Yeah, it's like we play the game, the ping pong game, where I play guest, you play guest, and it's all the same
Right.
narrative. That's what I love.
I've had people tell me they're like friends of mine like, hey, I miss you and Big Smooth. They're like, we don't hear you and Big Smooth anymore. I'm like, yeah, they kind of bounced us off. I don't know, but yeah.
Army guy.
So he's still got a fan following here in Western New York. People liked old Big Smooth, but.
Hey, it wasn't a situation where people didn't like you or loved the segments. It was a section that it was too much Afghanistan, and the folks, the bean counters were like, we're doing too much military stuff, and I'm like, I'd rather do a military show, quite frankly.
Yeah, I kind of got
want
this.
to talk about.
I kind of got this military thing going on. I mean, you got your Friday Car Girl on Fridays. You got all the different segments, and Dr. Epstein, which is flipping awesome. That dude just amazes me. No, absolutely. We could definitely do it. And me, you've had me on talking about everything. Usually we're talking about some kind of political thing. Usually that happens.
There's always something. I used to have Troy in studio, and every time he was in studio, something cataclysmic happened in the world.
The other day you accused me of being picked up by CID. I thought I was cracking up. I was like, you're like.
No, you corrected. You're like, oh, you've got that's not what CID is. Let me tell you exactly what they're about.
I was like, this young staff sergeant.
You had way too much information on CID. Actually,
I think
UCMJ is different than regular law, David. Let me explain to you how they take your rank. You're like your own subject matter expert.
And I think I sent all that to you while I was driving down Niagara Falls Boulevard. I was like texting that to you as I was going. I'm like, let me correct your CID definition there, buddy. Let me tell you.
You know that there would be a guy that would show up in a clean uniform as like a PFC, and he had like crow's feet, and he was like 52 years old. And nobody knew, no one was introduced to him. He's just in your platoon, in your squad, in your company. You're like, who is this dude? And the first thing out of his mouth is, where do I get the weed?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, wait a second, you're a CID guy. And then he disappears and no one sees him again.
Yeah, no badges, no tabs, right? Can't talk about anything infantry. No, but it's funny when you mention that, right? So I had in my time, right, my 22 years, I've had some squads of platoons where we had this, a late starter, right? Somebody that, finally realized one day they want to get their life in order, and they joined at like 30 years old or whatever. And they were 33-year-old PFCs. And every time I seen it in Korea, I saw it in Texas, in Alaska. Every time that happened, like the guys would say the same thing, you're CID, and they'd be like, no, so this has been going on forever. And then he'd be like, hey, let's go downtown. And it was almost like, you always hear about when people are worried about someone being an undercover cop, right? They try to get them to do something illegal, right? Just so they can make sure, well, you're not a cop. So they would go downtown, and they would take this person, pay for everything, and get them trashed, and just make sure they woke up next to the nastiest looking thing the next morning, or whatever it may be, or naked on the CG's lawn or something, right? Just to make sure if this dude is CID, we're going to taint the evidence, and let's make sure he does a lot of bad stuff, and that'll just clear us. It happened every single time.
Even as a private, I'd look for a guy that was in his, remember the gray PTs?
Yeah.
The gray on gray, and I'd be like, look, man, he's a C cup, and he left a silver dollar on his PT shorts. There's no way he's an infantryman. No way he's got a PP mark on his shorts for PP. No infantryman wears Velcro sneakers and pees in those shorts. That's not.
Yeah.
He's got to be CID.
And knee-high white socks pulled all the way up. Yeah. If it's not
he looks like he.
The only person that does that, the sergeant major. The sergeant major will wear knee-high white socks because he doesn't give a damn about what people think about how he dresses. But nobody else is going to wear that.
He looks like a Fed posing as a Proud Boy at the Capitol Rotunda. That's what he's got his cell phone on his belt and black socks up with the Oakleys. He's got the Wiley X's on.
That's right.
Yeah,
saying let's storm the Capitol. Right. That's what he's saying at the same time. But no, it's but no, I thought that was hilarious. But you're right. That was always existing in the Army. Everyone always knew it was there, and they were usually the first ones asking about where do I score. And I thought made me laugh is because like, my God, I thought that was just that my unit here or my unit there. I didn't realize that was an Army universal thing that happened. I thought I was just lucky to be around that.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, but
all right, man, you be good. Thank you for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dave, for coming on. We've missed having you on here. Good having you back. And let's talk about me. I can see if I can get on tomorrow and get back on there with you because we have good times for sure.
I look forward to it.
All right, buddy. I'll let you go. Go ahead and
Yeah,
drop,
man,
and
good. I'll
I'll
talk
close
tomorrow.
out for the night. All right, talk to you tomorrow. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much. That was a surprise guest. We have been going for a minute here. Actually, about hour and a half. I had to stop the Spreaker feed. We had a mic issue while I was talking to Dave. So for Rob, the producer, so you know, I had to stop the mic feed about 10 minutes ago, the Spreaker feed. So those feeds ended. But for those that are listening now or whatever, this is still going out to YouTube and Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook and all that. Anyways, thank you so much. Toby's been slammed down here. He had the drop. COVID is wrecking, employers everywhere and taking people out of the mix. So he had to go. Thank you, big, for Toby for coming on. Thank you very much. Thank you also, big one, to Dave Bellavia, Medal of Honor recipient. If you've been listening to the show, you know he's an all-around awesome dude, a national treasure and hero. And somebody just makes me laugh nonstop. He and I have such a good time when we're hanging out together. So to be sure to tune in to Dave, WBEN.com. He's on every Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on WBEN.com. You can listen to that on Audacity. It carries the podcast. You can always catch his shows afterwards. But great to hear Dave talk Monday to Friday, 10 to 2 on there. You may hear me tomorrow if I'm on. He talks about everything across the sun, not just anything in the New York area or anywhere else, but national events and so on, international events even. So, again, thanks to him. Thanks to you for tuning in and listening and having us in your ears tonight. Appreciate everyone being on here, and good to have you. We have some guests lining up next week. Rob is doing a great job in getting lined up, so we look forward to having next Thursday. And be sure to tune in next Thursday and every Thursday, 8 o'clock Eastern, here on Stu and the Nunn. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Stu and the Nunn Show, and we hope you had as much fun listening to it as we did hosting it for you. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. You can find all these links at stewandthenunn.com. We will talk to you again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlist 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and BooHammer.com. Thank you again, and have a good night.